Hello, I'm Goldberg, lawyer from Ontario, and your host in this meeting. I'm founder of Canadian Law Tutor, and I love bar exams so much. I'm still teaching after passing since 9 years. So here is Gurteg. He's been very, very kind. He's my star of 2020. So I always call him my star of 2020. He's a very, very hardworking lawyer and a brilliant, brilliant person. He did both his bar exams last year and got called to the bar in January 2021. So he's also here with us to share the experience from the student's perspective. And I would be, here answering your questions and giving you overview about the process from my experience being a tutor in this process. Thank you very much, Gurteg, for making time on your busy Sunday morning
Of
because
course, anything to
nobody
help.
wants to deal with bar exams once they're done.
No, like you, I like the bar exam a lot too. So I thought I would help out where I can, and you helped me immensely during my prep. So just something I could do to give back.
Thank you. No, it's really nice of you. So I was I have a group for my GTA, lawyers who are running solo practices. So I have a GTA Avocat group on which I have all the members who've been, my students, and they are now lawyers running their solo practice since 2013. So and now so I jokingly send them this thing. I said, do you want to come and join the bar exam? They said, no, we don't want to deal with the bar exam process. So who is among us is writing the exam for the first time, or you just finish your you just came to the licensing process, or are you writing your second exam? We would like to know about our audience so that we can build the dialogue based on that. So, Ashley, would you like to say something about the bar exam? What have you heard about the exam process? Hello? Yeah.
Yes. I just finished the NCA exam, so I have no idea and no experience. But for me, I split the solicitor exam and barrister exam, and the schedule is subject to change for me because I don't have a certificate yet.
Right. No, that's fine. Yeah. So, Gurteg, would you like to start from the student's perspective, where you have very, very fresh experience about the exam? So, what do you feel about how did you prepare, and what are the do's and don'ts in the process?
Absolutely. So I just to give everyone a little bit of a background, I started studying for the bar exam somewhat immediately after I got my last exam results, which were in last March. Last March, because I wrote the January right in 2020 was the last exams that I wrote. So I got the results back and I started studying for the June exam. And then because of COVID, things got delayed a little bit. So that naturally pushed my exam preparation back as well. But I was working almost full time at the time while studying for the bar exam. So I staggered my exams as well. I wrote the solicitor exam first in August, I believe, right, Go?
Yes.
Yeah. And then I wrote the barrister exam in November. So I think, I mean, if for anyone who has other commitments on the side, or for anyone who's working part-time, full-time, I think staggering them is a fantastic option. You don't have the pressure of writing both exams within a short span of time. And it really gives you time to absorb the material and learn what you'll eventually be practicing. So I think, like Ashley mentioned, splitting the exams is a great idea. And that's something that I would endorse for students who have other commitments.
So you've been working in a various articling position. Would you like to talk about your articling, position? You were not just with one mentor. You were like at three
Yeah.
places at the same time. Working with the coach for your exam, and being available to your articling positions, and then also working as pro bono events, and you've been giving a lot back to the society as well. So how do you balance that?
I think, I mean, it's really tough. I think that's why I found your coaching services so helpful, because I had joint articles to complete as well. So as I mentioned, I was working full time while I was studying, and that was my articles. And it was interesting that most folks either complete their articles, I mean, like they complete full-time articles with one principal at a firm, or they do secondments. So they complete like, first 6 months with one firm, and then they complete another 6 months with another firm. But I had the opportunity to work with 2 articling principals concurrently at the same time. So I was working 3 days a week with an employment law firm, which they focused on workplace investigations and cases against cases at the Human Rights Tribunal. And then for 2 days a week, I was working with a firm that focused on transactional real estate and commercial law. So I got I got to taste a little bit of both, but that naturally meant that my schedule was extremely busy during the time. And yeah, I mean, that's why I think your, help was so important to me, that I didn't have time to come home every single day and do that 6 hours or 4 hours of reading. We could just chat on the weekends once a week, just to get like a big overview of what's important, what are the important topics, how to tackle them. And then I could spend the week kind of like going through on my own pace, and we'd connect the week after, have like discuss some topics, answer some questions, and you'd kind of give me the lay of the land for the following week. So that was extremely helpful for me.
Thank you very much for appreciating my role, but you are a very, very, hardworking person. So I'm so, glad that my, future students have an opportunity to learn from somebody who really worked hard. So that it takes a lot to be, in the process, because
Yeah.
the articling position was so demanding. And then, it's not just like working with one person, it's like working with 2 different scenarios, 2 different setups, and being available to all those setups, and being available to answer those things. So you have to like train your brain into multiple situations. I believe like students over here who are just starting their licensing option, the licensing process should be encouraged. Like if you get an opportunity to work with 2 principals, it's doable. You split your exams, you put the input right, and you also have help around various ways to work, so that you stay on top of your studies. Do you have any questions from Gurteg? Anybody has any question from Gurteg, so that we can move forward? So I think everybody's just new in the process, so everybody just
that's
want to
fine.
know.
Yeah,
No, that's
of course.
fine. Yeah, we are always here to answer your queries. You can always forward your queries to me, because I understand it's been very, very, isolating journey for everybody. So our concern is so that you don't feel isolated in the process. You feel connected. You feel, that there are answers for every question, and there is no such thing as a dumb question. Because when I was writing bar exam, I was like, oh my god, what if other person feels like it's a stupid question? But there is no stupid question. Everybody learn from their experience, and everybody comes from your own background, different background. So we need to learn how to channelize this over here. So Canadian education system is very, very inclusive, and it's very empowering. So let's make this journey very, very helpful for everybody else. So I would like to talk about the bar exam. So we are basically talking about 2 different exams, barrister exam and solicitor exam. So one question which I had from students is like, which one should I write first? It's entirely your personal experience, personal preference, and it really depends upon how you have studied so far. For example, if you have time, you can prepare for barrister exam, because it's a little bit more technical read. Do you agree with this? It's more like a technical read, isn't it, Gurteg?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they, like you said, they lend themselves to 2 completely different areas of law, and individuals need to have a different understanding of each subject. So I would agree, it's based on personal preference and what kind of education and what kind of courses you specialized in before that.
Right. So, for example, barrister has civil procedure, criminal law, family law, and public law, and professional responsibility. There is one silver lining in this situation, that professional responsibility is same. So you start working from, like, these days you even have opportunity to write exams online, so you would basically work on one single book. So you don't have the best tip I have for you is, for professional responsibility, pick either of your books from barrister your booklets or from your solicitor booklets. Pick one, start working with that, do your highlighting, do your readings, and make your notes based on that. So there's one book on which you work, and you kind of do your preparation for both exams at one place. And then how to read professional responsibility. This has also been a question to me many times. I would say professional responsibility is a very easy subject. It's a very easy read, but a very deceptive read at time as well. Because it's very easy to read, you skip many things in the first read. So I would highly recommend law, you can read faster, but professional responsibility, I would say you should go as slow as possible and as many repetitions as possible. So you read one chapter, ask yourself like what I'm doing. If I'm in a corporate situation, family law situation, civil situation, real estate lawyer situations, what I'm going to do in that situation. So that's the way to read professional responsibility. Professional responsibility should be read slowly, absorbed, reflected, and then you move on. That's how I would recommend to read professional responsibility. And you should start reading as soon as possible. So the day you pick up your book, PR should be your default system. So now we are going back to the question of barrister exam. So you have civil procedure, criminal procedure. So which subject you should pick first? Family is easy to read, but family also have procedural aspects. If you know how trial works, like you are an internationally trained lawyer, you come from another jurisdiction, or you're an articling student over here who works in a court system, so you know how things work. So then you can go ahead and read any subject. The criminal law is interesting. It's not that time consuming because we know most of the terms. Like Evan said, even if you start thinking about, you know, becoming a lawyer, it's if it's your, somehow you think like, oh, lawyer would help somebody to get bail. So even a ninth grader would have an idea how bail process would work. Isn't it, Gurteg? That's like a kind of, we
Yeah.
have in our system, like criminal law is
Yeah.
our default when we start
Yeah.
coming to the lawyer licensing process or becoming a lawyer or law school. So criminal
Yeah.
law is kind of our default system always.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like, folks know what a crime is and what's not a crime, right? So it's quite embedded into society. So it's definitely the default for folks to go to. And I would say probably one of the easiest reads in the entire bar materials that I found.
Bar material. Yes,
Yeah.
but only when it comes to your, trial model understanding. So that's why you have a default from civil procedure. So you know, familiar with civil procedure. So there's certain chapters, for example, disclosure, bail process, which you can definitely read on your own. And there is no set formula to read things from chapter 1 to this. See which topic relates to you. So I always have a term for bar material. Just see what speaks to you. If you think like when you open up your material, divorce is something which you would be intrigued to learn at the first place, go with that. So because you have to find your landing point in the bar, bar, what I was saying, yes. So it find your landing position in the bar material. It's overwhelming when you look. There are two ways to look at bar material. You look at, oh, these are 1,000 pages. I split it into days and I can read it. But once you start reading, you realize, oh my God, this is so much information. There is so detailed information. There's no way I can finish it. Trust me, it's doable. There are resources to help you, and you are yourself equipped to deal with that. So the first thing you need to understand is, first find a landing page in your material. It will talk to you, see what speaks to you, and start reading from that, and then you can start going forward. And PR should be your default in every situation. So you should at least dedicate 3 days a week. Especially the best part of a professional responsibility is when you're tired, you can learn it. You cannot learn civil procedure when you're tired. So if you come from an articling position from your work or anybody, you're tired, but you know that you have to finish your 20 pages of that day, go to PR. This is your friend in the process. It's very elusive friends, very deceptive friend, but it is your friend. So we have a question from Aditya. So he says, if Gurteg can shed any light on his articling search and tips and how to go about that, that would be great.
Yeah, of course. And I would also like to tag on a point about professional responsibility at the end of this question. So, in terms of articling, I think it's a very, I was just talking to someone about this yesterday. It's a very customizable process, at least in Ontario. I'm not sure what it's like over in BC or in other provinces, but in Ontario, it's quite malleable and you can personalize it to, the opportunities that you get. If you get basically anyone who can fund an articling position can have you as an articling student. You have articling positions in-house, you have articling positions with solo lawyers, with big firms, small firms, medium firms, government agencies. So there's no limit to where you can article, which naturally means your search shouldn't be limited to just one area or one location, right? It all depends on where you would want to work after or what kind of stuff you want to learn. But the sad reality is, like, a lot of times students don't get the choice, right? Students don't have the privilege of being like, I'm interested in family law, so I'm only going to article in family law. A lot of students end up taking positions that in areas that they're not super passionate about or interested in, and that's okay. uh, just knowing that there are options available for you to switch out of that and sort of like change gears after you become licensed, and you're not like pigeonholed into just one area of law for the rest of your life. But in terms of finding articling, my biggest tip would be to just network with as many folks as you can, especially during the pandemic where you don't have you don't have in-person events available to you to go to and talk to lawyers and kind of interact with them face to face. It's quite hard for people to just forget who they're talking to. So if you on LinkedIn, or I always recommend people to get on Twitter, because law Twitter is a great community that a lot of senior lawyers are a part of, and it's an easy way to interact with them in a very casual setting. So on LinkedIn or Twitter, if you see lawyers whose materials or whose posts you like just message them, tell them you're interested in that and you would love to have a 15-minute chat. And most of them are very receptive to it. I think to date, I have only ever received one non-answered mail that the lawyer just didn't reply to me, and I think that was also because of timing, because I reached out to a lawyer in another country. But every single lawyer that I've reached out to on LinkedIn has always responded back with their availability, or if they're not available that week, they tell me that hey, can you contact me back in another couple of weeks to we can set something up. So my biggest tip for finding articling would be to network with as many lawyers as you can. And if you're looking for articling outside of the traditional recruit, outside of the traditional I think it's early, like January to March recruit that Toronto has or other provinces have, to just, it's a personalized process. So look for folks who have the budget and the funding to hire you. And it takes time, but it's doable. It's very doable. There's positions out there for everyone.
Thank you. And you had something to say about professional responsibility as well.
Yeah. For professional responsibility, I just wanted to remark that I really like what you said about it being the easiest to absorb. You can come home, you can sort of read 20 pages and you can kind of like flip through the pages mindlessly, but still absorb them. But what I would like to say, in my experience writing both bar exams, professional responsibility is probably the most tested subject on the exam. So as important as it is to read it, casually, it's you've kind of like nailed it right on the head. It's deceptive, right? Like even concepts in real estate law, concepts in business law, concepts in wills and estates, they all frame themselves from a professional responsibility lens. So when you read a question, you read it in the real estate section on the exam, but you don't know if it's testing substantive real estate knowledge or if it's testing what you would do in a setting, in like a regular legal setting, from a professional responsibility perspective. So there's a lot of questions on the exam that will come up in the business law section or the criminal law section, but really what they'll be testing is your professional responsibility and your ethics as a lawyer. So I would say, because another indication is that that section shows up on both exams, right? So it's probably one of the most important sections that you need to study for. So definitely spend time on it and don't just leave it to the end.
Thank you, Gurteg. So yes, so the next question we have is, How much time do you think is reasonably required for preparation for one exam given the length and complexity of the material? So Aditya, that's a very good question, but it's again very, very subjective questions. So it really depends what are your circumstances, what is your, on an average, I would say, you need at least a month to prepare. But sometimes recently I met a guy in November who came to me to last exam. So he met me in October. He said, I'm going to go next time. I would like to have him over here as well. So he's a recent call. So he's called in February 2021. So these days, that you can be called any time. Usually they are conferring license every month now because of because of the pandemic. They are not limited to the ceremony happening in January and June and September. Now people can be called every month. So that should be one consideration for your exam. So coming back to our question of preparation time, it's very, very subjective. So I had a international lawyer who was working who had 10 years of experience. And for solicitor exam, we just prepared between barrister and solicitor. And he nailed it, he passed it. The exam is, but if you don't have that much time and that you don't have, sorry, if you don't have that much experience, then the best part is going backward in time. You should have at least 15 days for reviews. So see how your reading is reading is going. I'm currently working with students who are writing in June. So you can start as soon as possible. See, find your landing page. I told you, like, find the subject, because sometimes it's a very different process from any other exam you have done. The level of depth of knowledge is very deep. So you have to understand and absorb it in a very strong sense. So give and take 1 month is reasonable, but there is no strict rule. If you need 2 months to slowly read it, if you need 3 months to slowly read it, there is no, you don't consider yourself, less competent a lawyer or licensing process, because a process candidate, just because your reading is delayed. So there would be days when you can read 20 pages per day, but there would be days when you stumble and you only move 5 pages. Pat your back on that day. Tell yourself, I'm a competent lawyer, I'm a competent licensing candidate, and I can do it. I know, Sted. So yes, so we have a question regarding the strategy. So I would say, the way I prepared, I would say you can definitely learn certain subjects. So because of, if you start real estate, there's certain concepts in real estate, because they started talking about fee simple interest, royal grant. These are very, very Canadian words. If you haven't studied in UK property law, or you came from any other country, you may not find these words very friendly to you. For in those situations, either you seek help or you go to Google and kind of learn those subjects, learn those concepts, what does it mean to you. So you have to find the connection. So royal guard simply means okay. So the next thing so let me complete that, then I'm going to come to the next question. So over here we are trying to say that how to prepare for the exam, how to read real estate or business law. So in business law we have many major concepts. For example, chapter I think 19 and 20 about incorporation process, how corporations work, what are the different rights. These are the very easy subjects for everyone to read, because this is what we learned in business law or corporate law in any other country, and this is similar to every other place. So you have to break it down into the pieces. For even business law, you have to break it down. What are the taxation issues? What are the incorporation process issues? What are the sale issues? What are debt financing? So sometimes you kind of, learning more than, a corporate lawyer would know, because you're learning a lot of basics in taxation and in debt financing, and of course, incorporation process. So these are the major areas. So another question I have for you is I have it over here is real estate. So yes, real estate, people find it really tough and dry, This is what a journal opinion about real estate is. People, because these are basically bunch of contracts based on legal principles. So you need to learn the law and the basics of a contract as well. So real estate is more like handling a contractual deal, and that too is a contingent contract. So going back and forth into contract law, property law is crucial for your understanding of real estate. So whenever you stumble, step back, try to absorb it. Don't just move forward and forward just because you have to complete the pages. That's what I can say in the nutshell over here. For example, okay, next question we have is indices. So I would say, I would ask Gurteg from his personal experience how much he used indices and how many times you relied basically on your memory or your training to answer the questions.
So I would like to add a little bit to the question that you answered for AP is strategy. I think it's obviously strategy is important in answering all the questions on the bar exam. And when I started studying for the bar exam, I had never taken real estate before. I mean, I had taken land law in England, but like the core concepts of Canadian real estate were not familiar to me. I had not taken wills and estates before. I had not taken family law before. So I was learning a lot of these subjects for the very first time. And like you said, like really taking my time with some of these new concepts went a long way. So if I didn't meet my, page target for the day, I would just, say, okay, I'm going to pause on that, but I'm really going to try and understand this concept because I know this is going to build on, or there are going to be other concepts that build on this later on in the, the chapter. So more than that, I think more than being able to recall all the information that you've studied, all 1327, I still remember the number, that's how many pages there are. So all 1327 pages, like everything that's on there, I think it's more important that you're familiar with the material in a way that you know where things are. So the more time you spend with, like, let's say family law was a new concept to me, right? Like the more time I spent familiarizing myself with the pages of the physical pages of family law, the easier I was able to find answers to certain questions on the exam. And indices are a very useful tool for that because it's physically impossible for you to recall the answer to every single question that comes up on the bar exam. So naturally, you had to rely on indices. There will be a lot of questions that you can just answer off of memory and process of elimination, which are, process of elimination is a great tool, which I think Gold, there'll be something on your website to highlight that and how to use that. But not all questions you'll be able to answer off of the top of your head. And I relied quite heavily on my indices when answering questions that I didn't know about. I specifically use the U of T indices that are generated by students in their final year at the University of Toronto. I found those very helpful. They're quite thorough. They don't lack any, substantive like legal principles in them. They're quite thorough. Like that's all I can say about them. Print them early and use them as you would on the actual exam. So use them as a tool to help you study. And if you think of a question, if you're, let's say, going through real estate and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I don't remember what a survey is, instead of using your notes to find the survey, use your index to find the survey as you would on the exam. So practice with your indices as much as you can because they are quite a helpful tool on the exam.
And how much you relied upon your memory?
I would say it was 70-30. So 70, it was memory and process of elimination, but some of the more, I guess, like knowledge-based questions, things like, what piece of legislation applies to this piece of law? And there would be 4 options that are like, it's very close that, you'd need to know the exact name for it. That's something that I would rely on the index for. So I would say it was 70-30. Most of the application type questions, once you know the general principles of the law, you can answer based on memory or process of elimination. But what you need to use the index for is some of the more knowledge-based questions, like what's the dollar value for when a Terry on warranty applies, for stuff like that is
Correct.
yeah.
And what is the percentage for
Yeah.
pre-judgment interest rate? You don't
Yeah.
you might your memory say 5 and then you say, oh, what if 7? So let's better go there and
Yeah.
check and confirm it.
Yeah.
No, that's very useful. So yes, 70/30 is one thing which I learned from my students, and the way I train them, they can write answer 70% of the exam based on their memory, because they know the concepts really well, they know which way it's going. So bar exam should be understood in a way into red light and green light and orange light. It's more like your driving manual as a lawyer. So you should know when to stop, when to pause, and when to go ahead. So your bar material, I would say, you should absorb it like your driving manual, but you cannot expect yourself every time checking your driving manual, because come on, you're on the road. We have to reach the destination. We are in the bar exam, we are fighting the time as well. So so I have a private message over here that how would I, plan time. So planning of time, I would say you buy time in the exam. How do you buy? There's certain concepts. For example, 40% you go boom, 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 right? So even if the law society allows you to have a 1 minute, 20 seconds or something for each question, your reading is, sorry, your attempt is way faster. I've timed Gurteg, I've timed students in my, review sessions over the years. I've seen on an average, they can answer most of the question under 25 seconds. So between 20, 22 seconds to 25 seconds, you can, if you're familiar with your material, you have been trained well, you can definitely answer those. So when you can basically navigate 50% of exam based on that, you can definitely have more time. There would be questions. I was stumbled in my bar exam and you like boggle, you're like, oh my God, what I'm going to do with this, right? So you have the luxury of spending 2 or 3 minutes, sometimes 4 minutes on one question. So you buy that time in your exam. But we cannot have, spend each and every question for 1 minute or so. So if we spend, then there is no time for those 10% or 50% very hard question. Or of course, everybody's not good with everything. So there would be some things in which you kind of stumble and you need to pause, you have to recall, go back. We have to buy that time in our exam. So that's
Yeah,
what my take on it.
and one thing that I can add on to that is, I remember when we were studying for the exam, you provided me with a timesheet for the actual exam. Like this is how many questions I should have done in 30 minutes. And I think like that sort of schedule, whatever folks create for themselves, or whether they get one through you, whatever they create for themselves is very important to stick to. I thought, based on my practice exams and my practice exams that I did prior to the exam, that, I'm okay. I can answer a question in a minute. So I will take a minute just to make sure the answer is right. And I didn't abide by that timesheet that I had created for myself. And I paid for that. Like, when I wrote the solicitor exam first time around, I remember I called you, like, I'm sure you remember I called you after
Yes,
the
of
exam. And I
course,
was
we
like, man,
talk in the mid-time.
yeah, I didn't get a chance to answer 4 or 5 questions at the end. And that was mostly because I didn't abide by the time schedule that I had created for myself. So, and I think like people who are writing the bar exam will realize the importance of that as they go through the material. But I think your way of describing it as buying time is a very useful concept. You answer the questions that off of the top of your head right away, and you trust your gut, you trust your instincts, and you move on to the next question, because there will be questions that require a minute or 2 minutes worth of reading and understanding.
Right. So we have a question: how to prepare when the material is not there. So as I was talking about professional responsibility, if you go into Law Society's website, you look at for lawyers. Under that, you will find a tab called Practice Management. Practice Management for lawyers. Don't go to the licensing candidate tab. This is a lawyers for the lawyers. You go into Practice Management, and that resource for professional responsibility is amazing resource. So you can start reading before your material comes in handy. And you can also go to barrister competency and solicitor competency detail provided by the Law Society of Ontario. In that, you can read about all the cases. So they would give you the sections they are dealing with, this law. So you can read about Divorce Act, you can read about Children Law Reform Act. So you can familiarize yourself before the material comes handy in your hand. So that these are the two resources which I would say you can go. One, under licensing candidates tab for competencies for barrister and solicitor, there are 2 tabs in which the syllabus is provided in a lot of detail. And another one is for lawyers under practice management tab to read about the profession responsibilities. So we have another question regarding the classes. Of course, I would be doing my regular classes on one-on-one basis as well as on group basis. I would love to have you in my classes. And if you have any question, you can, ask me now. I'm all open for all those questions. So that if you want to self-study, the purpose of Gurteg's coming over here is anybody who wants to get self-study, they can get more tools and relate to a journey and be inspired by this fact. So can you answer this question, Gurteg over here, about the proof of legal name in the application process?
For proof of legal name.
If you're not a Canadian or PR citizen,
yeah.
or yes, so I would say proof of legal name. What I provided my copy of my passport, and they required at that time. So it is for non-citizens. Yes, I did my bar exams. I was not a citizen, so I provided them a copy of my passport and also my visa, copy of my visa, so that I'm legally allowed to come to Canada to write the exams. So this is what it is over here. But I would say that the Law Society is very, very helpful. If you call them, sometimes you would find they're busy, but you may get discouraged, like, oh, my phone call didn't go through. But once you are in touch with them, keep calling. They are very, very thorough and helpful in their exam, explaining the process, and they would definitely take care of it, and they will advise you, because it's a very, very technical requirement, and they can only have the final say on what is required in your case. But I don't think so there is any dead end. You should keep studying and keep doing your preparation. Anybody else? Ali, do you have a question? People will think you're my relative. We have shared the last name, same last name, but I'm meeting you for the first time. Welcome to my class, Virk.
Thanks, ma'am. Thanks.
Yes. So do you have any question for me?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
You can always message me, and even if you have question from Gurteg, we'll try our best to answer your questions over here.
Yep.
So any Ashley, Shrishta, Heaven, Anvoy, Hashmi, if you have any question or any specific topic, any myth about bar exam you want to get answer for, because there's a lot of information and misinformation about the exam, so you have to make your choice wisely. Yeah. So estate planning is something which, okay, I have a question. Estate planning. Yes, estate planning is a detailed subject. So, okay, I have a question. It's very interesting how direct message, how I described estate planning. I describe you plan your death during estate planning. So I have a very funny way of explaining estate planning. I would say you have to die in CRA's record before you have your own death. Right? So estate planning is all about avoiding, creditors, angry spouses, and angry relatives. So this is the summary of your estate planning. So from drafting a will, from the substitute decision making to court appointment of power of guardian in this, and going into the chapters 42 of administration of estate and estate litigation. Yes, the best part is think. So you have to have a connection in the subject. So you have to think, I am helping a person from not getting sued, not unfairly taxed, and not dragged into litigation after his death. So that's how a foolproof will, foolproof estate planning can be summed up. I hope this fun way stays with you for the bar exam process. And yes, of course, we would talk about solicitor exam as well. So solicitor exam has 3 components: real estate, business law, estate planning, and professional responsibilities overlapping. So as I've already explained, you can use the same book. Don't make the mistake of using the 2 books. Now with online exam, you have luxury of using the 1 book. When I was doing it was in the paper form, so I had to simultaneously highlight 2 books because they would keep it in the exam, so I needed another book, right? at that time, or you copy the first book for the second exam. And so you have three components main from the law point of view. Real estate, as I explained, it's more like understanding the contractual aspect of the real estate, flowing through the deal up to the closing. Always remember that I am the one who is closing a deal, either from the buyer's perspective or the seller's perspective. So think about how many type of real estate you can think. You go out to buy coffee on, Tim Horton. You will drive through an apartment building, the commercial litigation. So everything is bought and sold in Canada. So and every contract has its own unique aspect. Every buy, and you have to always remember in solicitor exam that for real estate, the buyer is a vulnerable person. He may not have the opportunity to due diligence of everything. So as a lawyer, you do the due diligence, advise the due diligence, and make sure his interests are protected in the process. For example, business law is concerned, business law has many things. So there is a creditor involved in the business, his interest is controlled. The shareholder is involved in the business. There are different types of businesses. Businesses are bought and sold. And another major concept we have is taxation and bankruptcy. So that's how you have the overview of solicitor. And I've already explained about estate planning. It's all about not having angry creditors, relatives, and angry CRA on your exam for your client. Yes. So I hope this session would be helpful for your studies. And if you need, information regarding my classes, I would be starting my classes soon for June exam, so that we can prepare ahead and any specific question can be answered. So Gurteg, would you have, last piece of advice for everyone? I really appreciate you have such a busy schedule being a lawyer, and you still
No, it's
find
okay.
your Sunday morning.
I'm honestly, I'm happy to help. Like, I remember it wasn't too long ago that I was in, like, the other side of this. I was studying for my bar exam almost exactly like, a year ago. So it's a tough journey. I mean, kudos to folks who've joined the webinar, because this is more than I did when I started studying. I kind of dove into the deep end. I didn't know anything about the bar exam. So I think as a student, I can see like how valuable this would have been to me when I was studying, to get a little bit of a head start. But yeah, I mean, like, it's not, the exam is not meant to trick anyone. The exam is meant for folks to pass. And that's something that I kept with me as I studied. So every time I'd hit a roadblock, I just remember that the law society is not trying to trick me on the exam. They're trying to genuinely test me to see if I'll be a good lawyer or not. And most questions that they ask you on the exam aren't going to, have some sort of tricky answer to them. If it's straightforward, that's it. Like, it's the straightforward answer, it. So trust your instincts, trust your gut, and work hard. Everyone in this call, I'm sure, is competent enough to become a lawyer. So
yes. So today is our first day of spring, and we wish you, very, very cheerful journey for your bar exam. So it's not as lonely as me and as challenging as Gurteg. So we are meant to make your Springfield, journey in the exam process. So it's wonderful to have you over here.
Yeah.
So can anybody take a screenshot for me, please? And if you would like to come on the picture, you're most welcome. But if you would like to keep your, for the privacy, I appreciate that as well.
Yeah, I took a little screenshot. But yeah, if anyone has any further questions, obviously Gil said reach out to her. But if anyone would like, further questions about my perspective, or if anyone would like me to share mine, please feel free to reach out via LinkedIn, and I'd be happy to help out and provide resources, answer questions, hop on a Zoom call with whoever needs it. So yeah, I'm happy to help out.
We are looking forward to meet more people to make their journey more cheerful, happy, and resourceful. So me and Gurteg are committed throughout the year to do as many as webinar we can.
Yeah, absolutely.
So though it's our first, but we are absolutely committed to make your journey very, very interesting. And you are a lawyer, so tell yourself, like as they say, fake it till you make it. So you have to tell yourself every day, I'm a lawyer. I'm already a lawyer. That's how I'm handling the deal, and you can do it. Yes, and there's no harm in reaching out for any specific question to anyone. Trust me, we have a very, very inclusive legal community and very, very inclusive, helpful, society as a whole in Canada, and legal community is amazing for that matter. So if you can definitely bump into a person digitally who is meant to be your mentor. So keep looking and keep working hard. Thank you very much. I really appreciate Gurteg. It's a very, very nice. So he saw my post yesterday and he says, "Hey, are you doing a webinar?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Do you need my help?" I was like, "It would be wonderful if students can have your perspective in this process." And so he was kind enough to come over here.
No, happy to help. Absolutely, this is my pleasure.
He's my star of 2020. So I'm looking forward for my stars of 2021.
Awesome. Take
Bye
care.
bye.
See you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gurteg.
Of
Thank
course.
you.
Happy to
Thank
help.
you.
Bye bye.